Welcome to Hueytown, Alabama. I'm your host, Ken McFarland, for the Rings, Gears, and Opinions, and we got a really special guest here with us today. I've known of this guy most all my life, and we got Mr. Alton Jones in the house today. And Alton, thank you for taking the time to come see me today.
Well, I've had to put it off for certain reasons, but I intended to come all the time.
Yeah.
But we finally made it.
Yeah, we did, and we're here. So what we want to do is we're going to start with your life in the very beginning, and we're just going to tell the story. And so in 1951 or so, you become a race fan. Tell me how that began.
Well, I had a good friend named Jack Patrick, and his daddy carried us to the fairgrounds when it was dirt, and Nero Steptoe, and all that gang back then was racing there. And I was probably 10 or 12 years old, and that set me off to the racing world. I could not go up there every Sunday afternoon after that.
Mm-hmm.
And after he took us, I had a 49. I didn't have that car at that time, but when I got the car, started making a race car out of it.
Now, this was a 49
Ford. Yeah.
And
I was driving it on the street, and
right.
that was my car, but I didn't get it till I was 15 or 16 years old.
All right.
And that's when I got up. But my mother, after we went that first time, she would take me to it was Birmingham Raceway back then. It was dirt. And she would, after that first day with the Patricks, she'd take me out there and drop me off and come back every Sunday evening because I was too young to be off by myself. But
Yeah.
she'd set me off at the racetrack, and I'd go in there, and then she'd be sitting back out there waiting on me to take me back home.
Now, like you said, the first time you went with the Patricks, and after that, did she carry you most of the time by yourself?
Yeah, she'd carry me up there,
but no other friends with you. She'd just carry you. Yeah.
Well, she just wouldn't. I wasn't old enough to go off by myself.
Right. Yeah.
And she would carry me up there, drop me off at the ticket booth. I'd go in, come back out. She'd pick me back up.
Wow.
Every Sunday evening for years.
Yeah. And
I loved it from every day since then.
That's amazing. So you made a pretty comical statement to me a while ago about the 49 Ford. You said you started cutting on it and walking at the same time.
Well, that was on up till, when I was about 15 years old.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. But my daddy had a truck, and he would let me drive it, son.
Right.
Because he was working at Pleasant Grove, city of Pleasant Grove at that time. And anyway, when I got on up and started getting cars, he still had a truck, but me and him, I had a 53 Cadillac, I think, and he liked it, and I needed the truck, so we swapped.
Did you really? How about that?
So I used his truck to go a many a mile.
Well, that's right. And so you're in Pleasant Grove, and there's a lot of good racing people out there. The Anthonys are there.
That's right.
And
well, as I remember how it was back in the day, Bill Latham, Nero Steptoe, all of those hot shoes, Earl Labs, they were all from the east side of town, Irondale, and over that way. Okay. That's where they all lived, and they was at the fairgrounds every week. But after that kind of died away, after the special modifieds in it, grew up in Pleasant Grove.
Yeah, a lot of good people.
Paddlefoot Wells race, Charlie Anthony raced very little, Bo Anthony, me, and we had a lot of racers out there.
You did?
Yes, sir.
You did.
And most of us turned out pretty good.
You did. There's no question about it. It was a lot of good racers.
That's right.
So you're a young man, and you start working and starting to build your mechanical abilities and stuff. And And the first place you're around and you're working in and you're getting your hands dirty, where were you at? Tell me.
I was at Millard Haley Sinclair Service Station right there in Pleasant Grove.
Okay.
And worked there for several years till graduated from high school, and I was working over there for a friend of mine that had another Sinclair station right across the street. That had done changed to a Shell.
Okay.
And
that was Mr. Willie Mays?
Right.
Okay.
He's the one that owned that service station, and I was working for him. And I had been working there before I got out of high school. Me and him was in high school together too.
Okay.
And anyway, my brother was a parts manager at Long Lewis Ford.
And your brother's name was Norman?
Norman Jones, nickname Tater.
All right. So we had Burger and Tater.
That's right.
All right. How'd that come about?
Well, we used to have to walk back and forth to school, and there was a Gooseby guy that we cut across and had to cross the road and a railroad bed, and we walked right through a sweet potato patch.
Okay.
And every time we walked through there, my brother would dig up one of them sweet potatoes and peel it and eat it. And then Burger come from, my mother had restaurants out there, and I loved hamburgers and still do.
That's right.
But that's been a lifetime thing.
It has that.
But anyway, that's how it come up. And a guy named Bill Barton's the one that put them names on us.
Is that right?
And he's a big golf player. I ain't talked to Bill in 2 or 3 years, but anyway, he was a good guy. And to throw something else in there about Bill Barton,
okay,
we raced in Jackson, Mississippi. It's way later in years now, bypassing. And he was gone to Pensacola to play in a golf tournament.
Okay.
And he said, why don't y'all come down there and I'll have your room and everything. And then I'll go to the races with y'all at Pensacola. And so me and my brother left Jackson, Mississippi, and drove to Pensacola. When we got there, we went to the desk. Guy handed us the keys to the room. It was because it was in the early morning. And we went to that room, and it was a suite.
Really?
Had kitchens, beds, everything in there. He set us up.
He did take care of you.
And then we went to the racetrack that night, and or Sunday evening, I don't remember which one, and we won the race, and he was tickled to death.
So he is a Pleasant Grove guy.
He lived right across the hill from us all our lives.
Wow, and he was a good golfer, I guess. Obviously.
Well, he was steady at it.
Yeah.
I never played much, and he would go to Pensacola a lot because him and his brother liked to go to that dog track down there.
Okay, yeah.
So they'd play golf and that, but this time he went to go to the races.
Wow, that's good, and you won. That's always a good feeling.
That's right. And I think we was in the old special modifieds. It's been a long time. We're talking 50, 60 years ago.
I got you. I understand.
And but anyway, that's just another episode that I remember that was fun to me.
Yeah. So you get old enough and you start working on this 49 Ford, and you're getting it all cut up and ready to race, right?
Yeah.
And so once you get it cut up, where are you going to go race it at?
Dixie Speedway in Midfield.
All right. And you were sharing with me a little bit ago the original builders of that. Tell me about that racetrack.
It was Big-Hearted Eddie Wright, which owned Big-Hearted Eddie's Auto in Birmingham.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the guys' name was William Penn.
Okay.
And he worked at a trucking place over there close. And I think one of the flagmans, which I think was Johnny Garrison, but that's about as close as I can get to the owners of it.
Yeah. So you show up the first night, And who goes to the racetrack with you with this 49 Ford?
Jack Patrick.
All right.
Junior.
Junior. And he helped you build it?
Yeah. He helped me build the car and painted it, and we used his. He had a garage also up by his daddy's house where he lived with his daddy at that time.
And that was in Pleasant Grove also?
Well, it was on the road going to Fairfield.
Okay.
Just right there across from the apartments.
Okay, got you.
The driveway was right there going up to the garage.
Okay.
And that's where we built it, and his daddy'd come out there and throw hints at us and stuff like that.
So you got this car put together, and you go to midfield.
Right.
First night out. All right, tell me what happens.
Well, I probably spun out 2 or 3 times because I knew absolutely nothing about handling.
Okay.
And I don't know many people that would remember Rayburn Early, but he run at the Iron Bowl, and he still had old Hudson, and that thing was a tank. You didn't mess with him because he'd just lean on you a little bit and you'd be out of the park.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I do remember Mr. Early. He had a junkyard and stuff down there.
I think he did over in
Sylvan Springs?
Sylvan Springs,
That's right, yeah.
And he lived there also.
He was a good man.
I never had no trouble with him, but if you was trying to lean on him a little bit, he'd just cut down and move you on down some.
So how long did you get to race this 49 Ford?
I really don't remember. Maybe 1 season.
Okay.
And then I got old enough. I had a phone call from a Bill Letlow that he owned the Vigorlube car.
Okay.
That Joe Cannon used to drive at the fairgrounds, and when they had a 1/4-mile dirt track there. Well, Joe had moved to Florida or something, and he was bad to wreck, I think, and the car looked like he was beat up with a sack of hickory nuts. And
what kind of car is this?
It's a 50-mile Oldsmobile, but you couldn't tell it by looking at it.
All right. And would it have an Oldsmobile motor in it? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All
You
right.
had to run what it was back then.
Okay, I got you.
And anyway, I got a call from him, and he asked me did I want to drive his car. He said that he had called Big Hearted Eddie Wright to get my phone number, and he called me and asked me did I want to drive. I said, well, sure.
Yeah.
My car was tore up.
Yeah.
Motor blowed up or something. And when I got in that car, I went to war with that thing and won bunches of races.
Now, is this back at midfield, or where all did you race this car?
I raced at midfield.
Okay.
Run a dirt track race, a 50 or 75 lapper at Birmingham.
Okay.
Won it.
Okay.
Went to Huntsville one time, dirt, Huntsville.
Wow.
And won a big race up there in this car. And won about every Friday night at midfield.
So the first time you raced it, you think it was midfield?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we raced it several times at midfield before we started going out.
Yeah. And Bill was the mechanic?
He, as far as I know, he did all of it. I didn't have to work on it except to help him at the racetrack.
That had to be a pretty exciting time for a young driver to be able to get into.
What you talking about?
Yeah. I mean, because that's, as you well know through your career, the countless hours that you put into racing and be that early on to get into a good ride.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I wasn't much of a mechanic back then because I didn't know nothing about handling with my car.
Yeah. And
then when I got in that car, he already knew.
So what did he teach you? What was some of the first things that you learned? Because I know you're no doubt a very intelligent man, but a very observant person. And I know you were paying very close attention to what was going on. Tell me what you learned.
Well, that race car was different from most all race cars. He had laid the right front wheel in till it looked like it was about laying down.
Really? And
he would get them old 890 Cadillac tires, I think, and ambulance tires or something, and he would put them in a grinder and grind it to shape he wanted.
Okay, so
just that right front now.
So he was putting the camber back in the tires, I guess.
I guess that's what it was.
Okay.
But I wasn't smart enough to know what he was doing at that time.
Okay.
But I knew it was working.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It was working because I was doing real well.
Were you surprised at how well you ran when you got in that car? I mean, did it surprise you?
It excited me.
Excited. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, like you said, you've been in your car, and like I said, just basically just racing, not winning.
That's right. Just starting.
Yeah,
starting.
And then you get in this old Vigor Lube car, and this thing's working. And I'm talking about
absolutely.
And Alton's showing out.
That's right.
Yeah,
it was really fun.
Yeah,
really fun.
So, how many years did you get to drive for Mr. Bill?
Hard for me to remember, but I know it was 2 or 3 years.
So a good long run.
He built another 50 or 51 Oldsmobile coupe, and I didn't get to drive it but 1 or 2 times.
Okay.
And then I was moving on up.
Right.
I had my oldest brother was married to a girl from Winchester, Tennessee.
Okay.
And I know a lot of people that have seen Crimsondale Nursery on the side of my cars off and on for years and years. Well, him and my oldest brother, his name was Butch Hawkersmith. He owned Crimsondale Nursery.
Okay.
And I can't remember where it was at in there, but anyway, he was all around racing.
Okay.
And he loved it. And he had a nephew named Paul Crabtree. You may remember him in those special modifieds. So they started making trips to Huntsville, Birmingham, Montgomery, and then back to Chattanooga. Well, there was some friction there, and he had to tend to it with his sister.
Okay.
So he told me to come get that car.
Okay.
I went and got the car, the trailer, come home, and that was an old special modified. He had Friday Hassler build that car for him.
Wow. Okay.
And he was friends with Friday.
Okay.
And
now,
I don't know.
Clear up with me now. Who was married to him?
My oldest brother.
Yep.
And Butch Hawkersmith was married to sisters.
Okay, I got you.
So I don't know what that made me, just in-law or outlaw.
Okay.
But anyway, he took care of his situation with his sister and stopped Paul from driving the car and got me to start driving it.
Wow.
And that was the first of the special modifieds.
Okay.
Except that car I bought from Mr. Reynolds.
Okay. So
I run it for several years.
Okay, and this is right after the Vigor Lube car?
I can't remember that.
Okay.
We moved into the special modifieds, and I was racing at Huntsville, Birmingham, Montgomery, Pensacola.
Okay.
And Ernie had fell in there and was helping me work on that car, son.
Okay.
But anyway.
So Friday Hassler builds this car.
He built that car, and I run it for a few years. And it was number 50.
And now you're mechanicking, and you and Ernie Knight I
was working on it just like I had always done with every car that I had built or run.
Right. So, and Ernie Knight is your first cousin.
Yeah.
Okay. And was a very talented guy, very mechanically inclined.
He was.
And loved racing like you did.
Till the very end.
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah.
And right before Ernie passed away, he still had one of these little cars like you used to run.
Yeah, he had a dwarf car.
That's right. He had one, and I think a guy's name was Philip Clevenger was driving it for him.
Okay.
But that's as far as I knew, because he had done got old, and he didn't go off like he did back in the day.
So you had sponsor help from the nursery? They're helping?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're helping.
He gave me the whole car.
And is he helping you along?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
All back through the years.
Okay. All right, good.
And
So again, you're in a really good opportunity for a young racer.
It wasn't great, but it was enough.
Yeah,
it kept me going.
That's right.
Until I made it on up to.
All right.
In fact, this was about changeover time from the old special modifieds to 55 Chevrolets.
Okay. All right.
I did not have the money to build another car, so I kept racing that special modified.
And how were you doing with that car? With that in that class?
I was winning some races at Anniston Speedway on the dirt track.
Okay.
Because I didn't have nothing else to race.
Okay.
And that's what I raced.
I got you.
And then I won a few features up there.
Yep.
But they had some good people up there. Bones, Brasher, TC, what was that guy's name? Fletcher Ford.
Yeah.
You know,
the Friars, were they running up there all the time or just special? Yeah, Friars were there. Yeah.
They run there.
Yeah.
Not the Friars now.
Okay.
But after that little ordeal, I still had the car. That season was over. The next season, they was having skeeter races at Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Okay.
I started going up there every Friday night, and we was running the special modifieds, and they would pay a first place for us.
Okay.
And then wherever you finished with the special modifieds.
Okay.
I mean, with the skeeters.
You got paid. Okay.
And you got paid for the position, too.
Wow.
I was coming home with a pocket full of money every Saturday morning.
So where would you finish in the overall positions in that?
Second.
Okay. Wow.
Every week.
Really?
Harold Fryer would outrun me.
Yeah.
And I'd run second, and
Really?
I'd get paid for second with the skeeters and first for the special modifieds. One night, I had him beat up there.
Okay.
But I had to get, you know how fast them skeeters take off.
Uh-huh.
I had to lead on him by a straightaway, and we didn't like but 3 or 4 laps.
Okay.
I had him beat that night, and he spun out.
Mm-hmm.
He did it on purpose, and then they started him right back up there behind me.
Really?
And naturally down the front straightaway, he went right on by me.
Mm-hmm.
I still finished second.
Did you?
I still had a pocket full of money. $1,000 was a lot of money back in days.
No doubt about that.
And, and anyway, that was that part of that car.
Okay, so we're ending the special modified series classes and stuff, and now you're going to build a 55 Chevrolet.
Yeah.
All right. Tell me how we get into that, and tell me where the car comes from, and how that starts.
Come from my backyard.
Okay, is that right? Okay.
Well, that's where I had to work on it.
Yeah, but did you buy the car somewhere or somebody?
No, it was not a race car. I just started building it.
Okay.
And
went to a junkyard somewhere, maybe, and bought it a 55 or
well,
somebody's yard.
55s was real popular cars anyway.
Oh yeah.
I'd get one. You could buy them for $100 them days. Now they're $100,000.
I know, that's crazy.
But I can tell you know.
There's a few of them around.
But anyway, I got into building 55, 56, 57s.
Who's helping you during this era?
Well, my brothers.
Okay.
Both of them would help me. And most of that time we was in that service station in Pleasant Grove, and we had a garage in the back side of it. So I had a good place.
Okay. So you're obviously getting inclined to the front end geometry and setting cars up and building
Not that quick.
Not that quick. All right.
Not that quick.
All right.
But I was getting better.
You're just getting better. All right. So we built this 55. And tell me what color it is and what number is on it.
Red and number 50.
Okay. Red number 50.
And then when I started driving for Round Man, that's where the 48 come up. But that was way later.
Okay. So you build this 55, and you're building the motors, everything about it.
That's right.
Okay. So now,
even back in the special modifieds, I was building my motors in.
Yeah. See, that's a special.
Well,
I call you a special racer because again, and a lot of you were, because you had to do it all. There was
ain't that way now.
No, it's
not that way now.
No. But back then, you if you wanted to race, you had to be a very talented.
You had to do the work yourself.
Yeah.
And wasn't no big deal. Everybody was having to do
right.
that.
That's right. Yeah.
And then it was whoever could do it the best.
That's correct. Yeah.
And
So how do you do with this 55? You're still running the same circuits? Are you just running local?
yeah, Huntsville, Birmingham,
Okay.
Montgomery,
All right.
Pensacola.
Okay.
But I wasn't drifting off too far to Pensacola much because of the fact that money wasn't there.
Yeah, and sponsors. Who do you still have for sponsors, or is the nursery still with you?
Jones Shell Service Station. That's what I had on it.
Okay.
But Ernie helped me along some of them years with it in the 55s and 56s too.
Okay.
And he had that 60 model Ford convertible, and that's what we towed with.
Okay. Yeah.
And,
Wow.
Had to have some help from just anywhere I could get it.
That's right.
And
so, how this first car you build? What kind of success do you have with it right off?
Well, if you remember, you probably old enough to remember this. Friday Hassler was coming to Birmingham, and he won every race on Sunday afternoon at Birmingham.
Yeah.
And I run second to him most of the season, that particular season.
Yeah. Where do you think he was beating you at?
Well, first of all, he was getting some tires that could nobody get.
Okay.
And Friday Hassler was a seasoned racer from the get-go. So.
Right, yeah.
And he had
are we asphalt or are we still dirt at this time at Birmingham?
No, we are asphalt.
Okay, we're on.
And the guy that just got inducted to the Hall of Fame from Scottsboro, and I've been trying to get his name put in there for several years.
Yep.
Nobody knew him.
Right.
His name was Red Sharp.
Okay.
And he helped Friday a lot.
Okay.
And I'd been to Daytona when Friday was running a 56 or 7 Plymouth down there.
Okay.
And Red Sharp was with him.
Okay.
And of course, I knew both of them.
Right.
When I'd be there. And
so you just go to Daytona at this time just as a fan, and hanging
right,
out, right? Okay.
Right.
All right.
I did that, and
I was talking to somebody that was on the show just a little bit ago about him running so well, and said that they understood weight, and shedding weight a lot.
I think he did.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I think he did.
He understood that.
He savvied all that kind of stuff because he run good everywhere he went.
Right. Yeah. So,
yeah, he sure did.
So he was the one you were chasing most of the time, it sounds like.
That one year at Birmingham when he was running that.
Okay.
I think he was running a 55 Chevrolet too at that time.
Right.
And
so
anyway, I run second to him a bunch of times up there, and I finally that he was running some Firestone tires. Don't know where he was getting them. Mm-hmm. But I found some at a Western Auto store in Clanton.
What?
That's right. Come up with us. I started calling.
Okay.
When I found out where he was getting them, or he probably getting them straight from Firestone.
Okay. Yeah.
But anyway,
So how do you find out that you can get these tires from a?
I don't remember that. I think I just started calling Western Auto stores because they was a Firestone dealer.
Okay, all right.
And I got me a set of them.
Okay.
I still didn't outrun him, but I run closer.
You closed the gap.
There you go.
Okay.
Anyway.
So you have a good career with this 55, the first one. We call it the first 55. How does the second car come along, or you remember how that?
Probably when I destroyed the first one.
All right. Do you remember destroying the first one?
I remember tearing it up pretty bad. Going down the front straightaway at Birmingham. Freddie Fryer was there, and he pinched me off up against the fence and tore the right front off of it. And I think that's when I come back with a 56.
Okay. Did you bring a better race car the second in the 56? Or
I really don't remember that. I'd have to go back and look at stuff, but I was winning races at Huntsville. I got pictures of checkered flags.
Yeah.
And we'd go to Nashville occasionally.
Same color, same number.
Same color.
Mm-hmm.
I did. This is later on. This is 1976. Crimson Dale Nursery come back into play, and he helped me with a Grand National car.
Okay.
I'd built it to go to Daytona and Talladega.
Yeah.
And then couldn't do too well with that because we really didn't have the money.
But you had a different.
So he wanted me to. The Hawker Smith guy wanted me to come to Nashville, and this was 1976, and he said, I'll get Bill Hamner to build you a new motor. I'll give you a new truck. I want you to come to Nashville, Tennessee every Saturday night and race there. I want you to win that championship for me.
Wow.
And he said, I want that big trophy that they give away, and you had to win it 3 times to get it. So I go up there and run every Saturday night, win the track championship for him.
Yep.
And we went to the banquet, and to get ahead of the store, there's a castle in Winchester, Tennessee called Hunter Oaks Castle.
Okay.
Dirt racetrack right behind it. He could sit on his deck and watch the races and didn't even have to go out of his house. He rebuilt several rooms in that house to live there, and he did, him and his wife. But then it got too much for him. Mm-hmm. So they sold this castle to a guy that owned a Ford dealership in Winchester.
Okay.
He made a restaurant out of it.
Wow.
So he wanted that trophy to put in that restaurant and go over there and eat and probably have a toddy every now and then.
That's right.
So anyway, as far as I know.
That car was a different color, right?
It was blue.
Yeah, I've seen
that was his color.
Okay.
He loved blue.
That was a pretty race car, though.
And he didn't. Well, I got pictures. I got a picture of it on my phone there. But anyway, this is getting on later in my time.
So that was okay. And we'll go back. All right. So now you're back in the 56. You've torn that car up, and did you wreck that car and have a bad accident in the 56 as well?
I think so. It's hard for me to remember back that far. We're talking a long time ago.
I got you.
And I'm way down the line too.
All right.
At my age.
All right. So what progresses from there? What do you remember going from past the 56 and what do we race next?
I think we was racing 64 Chevelle, or probably went to Camaros.
No, it should have been the Chevelles first.
Because
that's going to be 70.
Well, that's when I got. I think that's when I got hooked up with Round Man. He called me.
Okay.
And Donnie was driving this car.
Donnie
Allison.
Okay.
And he was staying gone so much. So Round Man called me.
So you were running. I know Round Man was a good car builder and had the speed shop and all that stuff during that time.
He didn't have the speed shop at this time when I was driving for him.
Okay.
But he still had it on the car.
Okay, I got you. So, but he built good race cars, and you raced against them, competed against them through the years.
Yeah, when Bill Sternenberg was driving his hobby car, and see, I was coming along in them same years too.
Okay, I got you.
And of course, I wasn't doing real well at that because there were several guys out there like Bob Watkins.
Yeah,
he had Thomas Garage building his cars.
That's the one we ain't talked about much. Is Thomas Garage.
Well, he had raced at Birmingham. Bob Watkins he had raced at the Iron Bowl.
Yeah,
and he was in the insurance business. And he come back when opened that hobby division out up at Dixie Speedway.
Yeah.
And had Thomas Brothers build him a car.
Well,
And naturally, what you think happened then?
he was good.
He was good. That's right. And it took me a while to get up there after I left that vigor loop, because every time you move up, it gets tougher, tougher, and tougher.
Right. Yeah.
So it took me a while to adjust and then get going again.
So how does the deal come about for you and Roundman to hook up?
I don't have a clue.
He
All
called
I
you?
do, he called me.
He called you.
He called me, and I don't know if Donnie might have told him to call me, or he just did it on his own.
Okay.
Because him and Sternenberg had done split ways.
Okay.
And Bill had built his own self a 55, 56 Chevrolet.
Okay.
And he won the first race that he come to Birmingham.
Wow. Okay.
And but they had done split ways for a good while.
All right.
But
So
we're going jumping ahead of some of the stuff.
well, let's go back to it.
I'm trying to think of what it was, but that came to me on driving Clyde.
Okay.
That's what he called that race car, because of Clyde Bolton.
Oh, okay.
And
that's you got. I had no idea that's how that came about.
well, that's how it came about.
Uh,
And Clyde would come by the car fairly regular.
okay.
And I kind of remember, I think, Roundman put right across the nose of the hood, Clyde.
Yeah.
And he pointed that out to Clyde.
So Clyde was a sports writer here in Birmingham,
Right.
Alabama,
He was sport writer for the Birmingham News.
and he done a well of a job for the
For
the
racing.
for the racing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
and I mean, every week there was great write-ups about the racing, and he was not only that, he become great friends with you guys. You know,
Yeah.
and,
Him and B.J. Parker was just like that.
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
But anyway, he published a bunch of pretty good size articles about me in his paper, because I was coming along pretty good.
yeah, and they're running really good.
Yeah.
So all right. So Roundman's doing a tribute car to Mr. Clyde Bolton, and it's the '64 Chevelle.
That's right.
And
That's what Clyde was.
all right. And so you remember the first race that you and Roundman got to go run together?
Yeah. I think I do.
All right.
We went to Montgomery,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure if it was the first one or the second one, but I immediately started winning races and won the first race we went to. But we went down the back straightaway. I was leading, Red and Bobby, and I think Donnie was behind all of us.
Okay.
When I started down the back straightaway, the oil pressure went to 0.
Wow.
I went on and stood in the gas
Mhm.
and coasted through the corner, and then stood in again and beat them. We was 3 deep
Really? That had
to
be,
the checkered flag, and I won it. And Roundman had a smile that big on his face.
Yeah.
And I said, "Don't be smiling too big." He said, "Why?" I said, "The motor's blowed up." "No, it can't be." I said, "Roundman, the oil pressure started going to 0 going down the back straightaway. And
Wow.
when I got to the corner, it was on 0. And I stood on the gas and beat them to the checkered flag."
Wow. Just
He said, "Ugh." Anyway, we pushed it, didn't crank it no more, and pushed it, and they brought it home. And trying to think of what B.K. Goodwin's brother name was. He was building the engines for him then,
okay.
and the oil pump broke off and fell down in the oil pan.
Oh my goodness.
Took the motor out, put an oil pump on it, checked the bearings, put it right back together.
Man, and you won the race and saved the motor.
Saved the motor.
Wow.
That's right.
Yeah. So this is getting in a good era of racing. I mean, there, like I said,
Oh,
you got
yeah.
you got a lot of great racers, the Allisons and the Bonnets. And,
That's right.
And name some of the other competitors that were so competitive with you back then.
Oh, me.
Anthony, Donnie Anthony was running the.
Well, Donnie didn't come into play till after we had done moved up. Now, I'll tell you what we did. Round Man had a deal to go to Houston, Texas.
Okay.
The Vita Fresh boy was winning all the races in A.J. Fort's car out there at Meyer Speedway. And he wanted Round Man to bring me out there and try to beat that guy. Well, Round Man had bought a brand new Ford truck, and that was our first trip in it.
Really?
We were all, and what really happened is we messed up a motor at Birmingham the night before.
Okay.
We go down to Bobby's shop, took the motor out of Donnie's car and the motor out of Clyde, and put Donnie's motor in our car. We took a shower, and then we left for Houston, Texas. And that truck quit running brand new 2 or 3 different times. Mm-hmm. So we got to the racetrack at 5 o'clock Saturday evening, unloaded the car. I went out on the racetrack and qualified second.
Wow.
And then run second for 200 laps.
Really?
He beat us.
Did he?
But, man, you talk about wore out. We hadn't had no sleep. It worked all night and went to Houston, Texas and run a race.
And it's not like cars nowadays, or a crew cab truck. You might go in a crew cab truck now and take
this was a crew cab truck, but it was full.
And trying to get some sleep was just not going to happen.
That's not going to happen very well. That's right.
So you're driving for Round Man.
Yeah, that's right.
And y'all are winning a lot of races.
Lots of races.
Yeah.
Just about everywhere we went.
Yeah. It was a really good relationship.
Yeah.
And you raced against this car here quite a bit. You and Neil had a pretty good
I don't remember back. See, Neil was a good bit younger than I was, and
all right.
But
that
I remember this car at Nashville, Tennessee, in a Falstaff 200 race in 1975, and I was driving 02 cars then.
Mm-hmm.
And
now, who's the 02 cars? What is that?
That's the 2 Novas that Round Man built for the Columbiana people.
Okay.
But this is jumping on ahead. I remember that stuff easier.
Yeah.
But this car, I think, was there. Darrell Waltrip was there. Jack Ingram was there. All the big shots, because we wasn't racing nowhere else.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, Bobby was there in the 12. And it looked like Bobby won the race. But he was a lap down because he had pitted and got fresh tires where he could come out and keep up with us.
Okay.
And anyway, he run. I don't know where he finished, but I won the race. It shows me in victory lane.
Wow.
And that was on, it was it's on YouTube or something. It's a 1975 Fall City 200, I think.
Wow.
But anyway, that's moving on up. See, right. And
yeah,
we need to go back to some of that earlier stuff.
Let's go.
It just, I'm taking it as it comes to me.
That's fine. Let's do that. Let's go back to where you want to be.
I just
so you're driving the Clyde car and having a good relationship with Round Man.
Right. And well, that's when Round Man, he quit. Me and him had built them 2 cars over the winter, one for me and then one for him.
And why did you build one for you and one for him? You knew he was getting ready to quit, or
I just
you wanted one for your own?
Well, yeah, and it worked out fine because Round Man quit. the end of that year.
And
then that left me without a ride.
So he sells
he sells that other car to the Columbiana people, and Richard Orton drove it.
Okay. All right.
And he won the track championship at Birmingham, I think. And then had a pretty good article in the magazine about what they was going to do. And the next thing I knew, they was calling me to drive for them.
Okay.
And I didn't even know nothing about that at the time. And I said, well, sure, I'll drive. Because I knew it'd be a good car.
Right.
Round Man built it. It was slick as a button.
Good.
Every piece of it.
Every piece, yeah.
Every piece of it.
All right. And the name of the people that we were driving for out of Columbiana, they...
Von Arthur.
Von Arthur.
Von Arthur and his wife and his daddy was the one that liked to race.
Okay. All right.
And his daddy and her went to every single race.
Wow.
And wherever we was at, they was there.
Yeah.
And we did have fun, you know, because we was winning races there too.
Yeah. And who's doing the mechanic work and stuff on these cars? Are they keeping it up? Oh, you are.
I was driving. He had a son and a couple of other guys that was kin to him, and I would drive to Columbiana every night after I'd get off from work.
Okay.
And work on them cars to be sure
wow.
that they was ready to race for the weekend.
Yeah. Wow.
And I'd leave at 6 o'clock at our work, drive to Columbiana, work till midnight or 1 o'clock, back home, back to work the next morning, and then to the races of the evening.
I don't see how you guys did that.
There wasn't no guys. Me doing all the traveling.
Yeah, but all of you guys burnt the midnight oil back then.
Oh, yeah. You had to.
I know.
I mean, it ain't like walking to the racetrack with your helmet in your hand.
That's right. Yeah.
You had to walk with your tools in your hand.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. It was a long road before I ever got to, where I was winning lots of races.
Yeah.
And I won races everywhere I went.
Yeah.
Everywhere I went. I never won the Snowball Derby. I never won the 400 at Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah. What was your best finishes in those races? You remember?
In 1978, I was just at the Snowball Derby.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to the racetrack the next morning.
Mm-hmm.
And Casper Miles was sick. He had the flu or something. And Billy Parsons said, will you drive our car today?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I said, well, sure.
Mm-hmm.
I did have my fire suit and helmet with me. But anyway, I led that thing all day. I could start from the rear and go to the front, but I had to have time.
Right.
And at the very end of the race, they called me in and said I had a flat left rear tire.
Yeah.
I ducked in the pits. Tire wasn't flat. So when I come out, I had to start on the back.
Yeah.
Which didn't make no difference because I had been coming from the back every time I pitted. And they run the last 30 laps, 2 and 3 laps at a time, and I never could get going.
Wow.
I got back to third.
Really?
Little Dave Mater won it. Mark Martin run second, and I run third.
Wow.
If I'd have had 5 or 10 more laps, I'd have been back in front of them because I'd done passed them all day.
Now, what did you had to be excited. What did you done? You're getting in this car, and what are your expectations? Billy and them was doing really good and winning some races, but did you realize this car was going to be that good of a race car before you got in it?
No, not really, but Round Man had stuff to do with that race car too. That was a good thing in my mind.
Okay, right, all right.
That was way later, but Round Man and Billy and Round Man was good friends also.
Okay.
And Round Man was not stingy with his whatever.
His knowledge and
his knowledge and all. You asked him anything. I don't know if he did everybody that way, but
yeah.
If you asked him anything, he'd tell you.
What made you? What makes you think that he where did he get such vast knowledge at? I mean, I know he's a very intelligent man, but
He been fooling with race cars ever since I was a teenager with Bill Sternberg.
Yeah.
And everything Rudolph Johnson. Did you know Rudolph Johnson?
No, sir.
Charles Morgan?
Oh, yeah, I knew Mr. Morgan.
Well, when Charles Morgan had the service station down there behind and had that little place, and they built not Charles, but Rudolph Johnson and Roundman built that 40 coupe that Roundman had that Bill Sternberg drove, and they built it down there.
Okay.
And then he got to building cars out at his house.
Yeah.
And he didn't start in the middle of nothing and finish it, but he started from the ground up. I mean, bare frame, and go through that and on up to the end, and he was a fabricator. And you know what he did for a living?
No.
Lay tile.
Laid tile, really? I didn't know.
Laid tile, and that his mechanical ability he's a natural at everything he had done.
Yeah, he's one of those guys. If he'd have been, I wanted to, he could have went cup racing or anything else. I mean, he was that talented.
He was. He absolutely was. He absolutely was. He savvied it, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
He sure did.
Yeah. And so let's go back to your childhood when you're starting to, your dad and your mom were race fans or become your race fans and followed you all over the country.
That was early. It was in probably 59 and 60.
Yeah. Wow.
Because she had a brand new 60-mile Oldsmobile.
Yeah.
And I towed my race car with it a bunch.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Fact of the matter, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit again.
Okay.
We heard they was racing in Memphis, Tennessee. At, I think it's called Lakeland Speedway up there. It's just a little old 3-8-mile track.
Right.
Well, naturally, I take the old coupe from Crimsondale Nursing, that 60-mile Oldsmobile. Me and one other somebody went to Lakeland Speedway on Sunday afternoon. And we raced. Bobby was there. Donnie was there. And Donnie had to put a motor in his car. It wasn't his car. He was driving for somebody. Mm-hmm. And they put a motor in the car at the racetrack because something happened during practice. And then when we left there that night after the races, Bobby said, "Can I ride home with you?" He said, "I'm up here," and he rode up there with somebody else that owned the car. Well, the car was going back to Mobile, I think, or something like that.
Okay.
I said, "Well, sure."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "We got plenty of room, ain't but two of us, and we got a back seat."
That's
so
right.
Anyway, Bobby rode home with us, and we stopped and ate, and then went on. I drove till I couldn't drive no more. And I said, "Somebody got to drive." I said, "I'm fixing to be sleeping." So anyway, he wakes up and he gets in there and drives us the rest of the way home. I said, "It's over 100 miles to get us back home."
Wow.
And carried him on to his house, and then I went on home.
Yeah. How did y'all run in that race that day?
I don't remember.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
We was racing against the Skeeters.
I got you.
And probably that was early in the days.
Right.
And that special modified didn't stand a chance for those Skeeters, but I still went and run.
Okay.
I went to Pensacola and run with the Skeeters there.
Wow.
Because it was a place to race.
Right, yeah.
And I did that for a few years.
Yeah.
And I wasn't all that good at that time, but I got there.
No doubt about it.
I made it on later in life.
Yeah. You run your 65 Chevelle for a couple of years, and who you start to drive for after that? Is that the guys in Nashville?
I think it must have been.
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly what years it was.
Tell me about Nashville. Nashville was my favorite racetrack, that hands down. I thought that was the raciest racetrack. You couldn't carry too much race car.
Which one of Nashville's are you talking about? You ain't old enough to run the first one.
No, tell me about the first one, because I know it was a handful.
It was a handful, and old special modifieds, you'd go in the corner and you'd run up next to the wall, and it was real steep. Mm-hmm. And you had to cut a hole in the roof where you could see down the straightaway without running off in there and, mm-hmm. And running into a pack of spun-out cars.
Yeah.
So then they come back and changed it, and it was instead of it going halfway out and then straight up, they made it go straight up from the bottom.
Okay.
And that R.C. Alexander had 2 or 3 race cars all the time, and Bill Hamner was, he was building the motors and helping them, taking care of them and everything. And we went up there, and I can't remember if this was the same race, and me and Bill went up there, and I drove one of his cars and won the race.
Okay.
And
for Mr. Alexander.
Yeah.
Okay.
I won race in his car. We was in Greenville, South Carolina, I think, and the races got rained out. Mm-hmm. And Bill said, "Do you want to go to Nashville? I think we can make it over there by race time, and I'll call Shag, tell him bring that other car to the racetrack." Well,
Shag was somebody that worked for Mr. Alexander?
He worked at the Ford dealership, but that's what he worked on, was the race car.
Okay.
But anyway, so we leave Greenville, South Carolina, and flew hard as we could go to get to Nashville. Anyway, won the race that night.
Wow.
And got in a car that I'd not been in. Mm-hmm. And so when they took the carburetor off the car to check the carburetor, it didn't even have a gasket on it.
Did it not? Really?
And I won the race.
Wow.
And I won another race there that supposed to have gave us a guaranteed spot in the race at Charlotte.
Okay.
But we got up there, and he had a super speedway car, but that thing was terrible. I couldn't drive it. It was just all over.
And this is Mr. Alexander's cars?
His too.
And Bill's taking care of that stuff for him?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And anyway, Darrell Walter had drove for him.
Yep.
And he got in that car. I was telling him, I said, "This thing's so squirrely, you can't even drive it down the straightaways."
Yeah.
And so Bill goes and get Darrell. They was pretty tight because I think he had done drove for Mr. Alexander while Bill was up there.
Right.
So he got in it and drove it. And he said, "Bill, there's something wrong with this car. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it is, but there's something wrong with it." Uh-huh. And then it rained that out.
Okay.
So
yeah.
They wasn't going to let me have the guaranteed starting spot anyway.
Okay.
Didn't get paid for nothing. We just made that trip for nothing. But anyway, I couldn't drive that car.
Yeah.
No way.
So
it was squirrely.
How many times do you think you drove for Mr. Alexander? A handful of times or a little more than that?
Probably a handful.
Okay.
More.
Always good stuff. And obviously you won 2 or 3 out of the...
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
Actually, to this day, I've been told that I am tied for 15th place in feature wins at Nashville Speedway, and I never run there but that one season.
Okay.
Regular.
Regular.
The rest of the time, it was just hit and miss.
Yeah.
But so 15 wins, and I never run there but one season.
Wow. Did you enjoy Nashville a lot?
I did.
Yeah, I mean it.
I always loved going to Nashville.
Yeah, and it really got good. I mean, I think the track's probably as good a design as
now.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it was very racy.
It is.
And I said a couple times when I was there, you couldn't carry enough motor or enough race car. That racetrack would take everything you could carry. You know, it's
You're right.
we were there for a Southern All-Star race, and we were on soaks, and we went out and made a mock qualifying run, and I came back in. I said, I don't know how fast we just went, but if it can go any faster than I just went, then somebody else has got to drive it, because that's all I have. I don't have any. So, but it's just, I think it is one of the coolest racetracks, and you know, I think
it's well designed now, but it was nothing before.
Yeah.
Both times, of course, that first racetrack was halfway out and then right up, couldn't pass.
Yeah,
it wasn't wide enough lane. But anyway, when they rebuilt it, it was steep all the way up, and you could fly.
Did you have any bad wrecks there? Because I know.
Sure did.
Yeah.
Fact of the matter, Jimmy Griggs, we were running old model modifieds there, and Jimmy Griggs got hurt with brain damage, and
really,
it messed him up for the rest of his life.
So you were involved in that accident?
No, I wasn't involved in it.
You just there? Yeah.
I think the Stoffel cars is can't remember who was driving them. I know I understand that them cars, they had 3 cars, I think. And I understand that them people have still got them cars up there in their garage in Columbia, Tennessee.
Really?
But I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But anyway, when we went up there for that big race, when I went with Steve Gober.
Yep.
And what was that guy's name? He was a big mechanic man up there. His name was Bill. Wasn't Bill Morton, but he wasn't a driver. He was a racer, and he was a mechanic on the car. I think it might have been Charlie Stoffel that was driving that car, and they won the big race. And then Tommy Gober finished third in it. I think this is the same race.
Okay.
And here again, I was at Daytona, just down there.
Yep.
Still a young guy. And I got Belcher Lumber, Van Belcher, Ralph Kaiser, it owned Birmingham Record Service, and somebody else. They went in together for Sonny Black, and had a 57 Chevrolet running a Sportsman race. So I knew them because we raced up here together.
Uh-huh.
And actually, Sonny Black was distant kin to me, but I didn't even know that till later on. My Uncle Floyd and his wife, Hazel, and Sonny Black's, his wife, Hazel, and Sonny Black's mother were sisters.
Okay.
So it put me down the line somewhere, but I still kin to them.
Yeah.
So anyway, what's the guy from East Lake over there that had so hot car? Yeah. He wasn't, his brother had built this 57 Chevrolet for Sonny Black to drive, and them 3 guys was footing the bill.
Okay.
And he had built a tunnel under that car that went all the way from front of the floorboard all the way back to the back down to the ground.
Uh-huh.
Well, they disallowed that.
Right.
So I was just down there to watch the race and be a spectator. And so I started helping him. I asked him, I said, I can help you if you need to work on this car.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "We?" I said, "Yeah, I sure will."
Mm-hmm.
So I got up under that car and I drilled rivets for 2 days getting that thing out from under there.
Yeah.
And that first day, Sonny said, "Where are you staying?" I said, "Well, I just got here this morning. I don't have nowhere to stay yet." He said, "Yes, you do. You going home with us."
Is that right?
And they had a whole apartment over there on the beach somewhere. I don't know remember where it was at, but they took me. I went home with them and spent the rest of the week with them.
Wow.
And I helped them work on the car. And Harry Mewburn and Rufus Mewburn.
Okay.
He don't go by that now, but Rufus Mewburn was the one that was the mechanic on the car. Had a Cadillac motor in it, because Sonny'd run Cadillac motors down there.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I helped them work on that car. They took me. I wasn't of age to be drinking, but we went to places that a Pale Face and 2 or 3 different places, all the high places, that everybody went. Carried me right with them.
Wow.
And the car, every time he'd go out, it'd burn a hole in the piston.
Wow.
So we'd tear it, and it's running injectors. And Sonny was trying to get him to change the jet in the injectors because it was lean and it's burning a hole in the piston.
Right.
So he wouldn't change it. I don't know if he didn't know how or what. So finally, race day, never got to practice except a lap or two, and it'd burn a hole in the piston, tear the motor down, put a piston in it, go again.
Wow.
So anyway, Sonny got out there early race day, Saturday morning, and he got the guy from Nashville, Bill, whatever his name was, help him.
Okay.
And he changed the jet in it.
Yeah.
Run the whole race.
Did he?
And finished up pretty high in the front.
So this is a 57 Chevrolet?
A 57 Chevrolet.
With a Cadillac motor.
Cadillac motor.
Wow.
And he changed the jet. Sonny got Bill, I won't say Bill Dyer, but I don't think it was him. But he was a hot shoe mechanic around Nashville.
Okay, yeah.
And anyway, he got out there and they changed the jet and didn't even let nobody know it.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
And then
he had to do something, didn't he?
He would have run 2 more laps.
That's
and
right.
Burned another hole in the piston. So we run the whole race.
Wow.
And finished up in the top 5, I think.
Wow. That was a good time.
That's just another ordeal that comes to my mind that I've been through and was part of.
Right.
Because I worked pretty heavy on them. Of course, I was a parts cleaner then when the motors got to working, but I was a rivet driller getting that bottom off of it.
Well, that's so you're you're involved with racing after the Chevelles and things like that, and you're without a race car, and your wife comes to you and sees that you're not racing, and you're not being you. She sees it,
right.
and
I was till my leg got well.
Yeah, that's right. And let's go back to that part of it. I think so. You go to Daytona, and you're going to run a car, and you're driving for who? Are you driving for?
Ed Benward was his money man.
Okay, and so you're at Daytona. You're running a sportsman race.
No, the Arca race is what they wanted to run.
Okay, they're going to run the Arca race, and you're driving a Chevelle.
It's a 73, 74 Chevelle.
Okay, and what number's on it? I think I looked at the numbers not too long ago, but
I can't tell you that right now.
Okay.
I'd have to look it up.
Okay, that's fine. So you're in this Chevelle, and you're out in practice.
Yeah,
and you lose a motor.
That's right.
And dumps oil all over the track, and you have a really big impact. Tell us what happened.
Well, when I got to the corner, that's when it blowed, and I went in there. Instead of the car turning, it had so much oil under the front wheels it wouldn't turn, and just went right into the wall. Of course, the wall, was it was in the banking, and I didn't hit it blunt. It just like that.
Yeah.
But it was still a pretty hefty lick.
Violent wreck.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you tell me that you almost hit the bars on the right side of the car with your.
As I remember, a roll bar was right there in my face. And then
Wow.
when I come back, when I went down the track and hit the bottom, then it throwed me back that way.
Right.
And that's when it broke my leg, because my leg hit the roll bar.
And it takes you out of racing for the rest of the year.
No, about the middle of the year.
About the middle of the year. Okay. Yeah.
Because I lost that ride that I had. Palmer got somebody else to drive it, but I don't know. It might have been Casper. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah.
But anyway, this all took place about the middle of the summer.
Okay. What was it like running Daytona and Talladega? And I mean, was it intimidating or was it? How'd you feel about that?
Well, it was at first, and I didn't get to run the big tracks enough to get used to what it was like and how you needed to do to run fast. And there's certain stuff that you got to do.
Yeah, that's right.
You don't drive like you do on a short track.
Yeah,
and it's fairly easy, but
right till you wreck.
Till you wreck. That's exactly right. And then it ain't.
Yeah,
it's tough then.
And like you said, back in that time that you were there, and these accidents, I mean, they were violent. I mean, even what we looked like on TV or in the stands were not bad accidents, but they were inside those cars, and what was going on was
when you running as fast as you running on them super speedways, it's got to be violent.
Yeah, that's right.
When you start wrecking.
Yeah, I mean,
but it's easy. You got so far to go down the straightaways.
Right. Yeah,
it's like driving down the freeway, except you're running 70 or 80 miles an hour faster.
Yeah. So, your wife's kind enough. She calls our good friend Frankie Grill, and is going to buy you a brand new race car so you can go back racing.
She did it.
Yeah. All right.
She did it.
And
that got me back going, and summer wasn't even over, and I had plenty of race cars and plenty of money.
Yeah, that's right.
Or all I needed, good stuff, motors, whatever.
Yeah. And so this is the starting of the All Pro type series stuff. Is this the beginning of that?
That was the beginning of me running it.
Yeah, right.
But it had been going on for a while, but there wasn't, Randy Couch and them guys was the big deals
right. Yeah,
at that time.
Yeah.
But now, when it comes on out, it's Bobby, Donnie, Red, Gary Ballou.
Yeah.
And that's what built All Pro on up to what it become.
That's right. And you're maintaining this race car yourself again.
Brought my own, had it at home, and then when I come back from Jackson, Mississippi, I had another one.
Yeah.
And then they brought another one over.
And this is the people from the hydraulic.
Right.
Yeah.
And Harold Tire and Front End. He was the main object of that. He was a mechanic too, built race cars.
Okay. Yeah.
He was back in the day of the Skeeters.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's just everything's worked fine for me for years and years, except that one wreck.
That's right. Yeah. Exactly. So
I've had a bunch of wrecks, but none of them hurt me.
Right. Yeah.
Until I got older.
Yeah. And then they stayed
now
with you.
I still feel them.
I remember being at Sayre one night when they ran the All Pro race there.
Yep.
And you had a pretty bad, tore your car up really bad.
Sure did. Got in that gate.
Yeah.
I got a little story about that.
All right. Tell me about it.
Gear changes has got a lot higher on them tracks now. But back then, I was running out there 728, 735, and I was contemplating they had two races, and I was contemplating putting a 741 gear under my car where I could scoot down the straightaway, and then I said, dang it, might mess my motor up. I better not do that. Daniel King come to me and said, have you got a 741 gear? I said, yeah, but I'm thinking about putting it in my car.
Mm-hmm.
He said, well, if you don't, will you let me borrow it?
Yeah.
So I went on and loaned it to him.
Okay.
He won the race, and I run second.
Did you really? Wow.
And then the next race, I got into the wall up there in that walk-through gate and tore my car up.
Yeah, I knew that was a pretty big race.
I think it was real early in the race, too.
Yeah.
But anyway, I loaned that gear to Daniel King, and he shoot down that straightaway, and I couldn't stay up.
Wow, how about that?
But anyway, he won the race, and I run second.
Wow, that's you enjoyed your time with the All Pro series? That was a really good series at the time.
It was. It didn't make no difference where I was racing. I was having fun.
All right, you enjoyed
I
it.
was having fun, and I loved it every bit.
Yeah, and so your son begins to race, gets involved in motorsports and stuff.
Yeah,
and y'all build him a car. What did y'all build him right off? This is Alton Jones.
He, I think the first car he got, some guy had it in his backyard over there by the waterworks, and it had been sitting there. Mm-hmm. And I think Bobby Ray Jones had built that car to take to Daytona for the Sportsman race.
Okay.
And then I don't know how it wound up over there, but the guy, I don't know how Alan got in contact with him or what.
Okay.
But he gave him, it wasn't nothing but the body and the frame.
Right.
And roll cage and all. Well, he gave him that car.
Okay.
So he goes over and gets it, starts working on it just like I did.
Yeah.
And then when I was running them hydraulic cars, Alan was right there with me, helping me.
Right.
And then he's getting to run. And in fact of the matter, we had 2 cars at Birmingham one night for All Pro racing. And that guy from Hydraulic Service Supply said, why don't you let him drive the other one? He's driving in the hobbies. Uh-huh. I said, that's up to you.
Yeah.
He said, put him in there.
Wow.
So it was a big jump from what Alan was driving to that.
Yeah.
And we was laughing him pretty regular. He said, Daddy, I didn't think there's that much difference in them cars. He said, there's a lot of difference in them, ain't there? I said, yep,
yeah,
sure is.
Yeah, there's a lot.
I said, that's pretty fast, ain't it? He said, yes, sir.
Yeah, it's definitely.
It was a learning point to him.
What about Birmingham? I thought Birmingham was a very neat racetrack.
Whew, I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. All them people come from Nashville, try to win a race there, come from everywhere.
Yeah.
And they could not run up against that wall like you had to do.
Yeah, that's right.
You had to go out against that wall, and I reckon they thought they could run around the bottom of it, but it didn't work.
It never did work, did it?
No, it's too flat down there.
Yeah, I mean,
it's too flat.
Yeah, but yeah, if you get up on that high side at Birmingham, and especially
that was the place,
especially down in 1 and 2, you could roll off there. And
that's right.
You could.
That's right.
You can make that happen.
I had a little thing that I thought was the way to get around there. I'd run in the corner real hard and let the car drift up there, and then turn it back like a diamond and cut it down low and go across there. And Casper Miles asked me one time, he said, how do you get around there so good? I said, well, I kind of diamond the corners, and just get it. When you get it to the top and the car turns, drive straight to the wall.
Yep.
And then you're back on the high side again.
Yeah.
And he went out that same night and got the pole.
Did he really?
Yep, wow. He did. He started doing that and run his fastest laps.
Tell me about Casper. I like Casper, and I know he ran some really good races. But tell me about your friendship and relationship with Casper.
Well, I guess I could say that I was noted for being a good driver.
Oh, no doubt.
And so that day that he got sick, and they just come as soon as I got to the racetrack.
And this is the Snowball Derby.
I was there
at
the Snowball Derby, and they come straight to me and want to know if I'd drive the car.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, well, yeah, I'll drive it.
You got Billy Parsons.
Billy Parsons was the mechanic for Casper.
That's right.
Or I know Casper didn't know how to work on that.
That's right. I understand. Yeah. So you get in this car down at the Snowball Derby, and it's fast.
It was fast.
Yeah.
I mean, top dogs. Well, Mark Martin was one of the top dogs, and I'd been passing them all day.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
Start pit, start on the rear, and go to the front.
Did you qualify the car?
Huh?
Did you qualify the car, or was it already qualified?
It was already qualified.
It was already qualified in the race. So
yes,
you have to start at the back.
I don't remember
Okay.
where I started.
Yeah.
But every time I went to the back, I'd go to the front, except when they'd run it 2 and 3 laps at a time, the last 30 laps of the race.
Yeah,
So that put me third.
Yeah, y'all thought you had a flat tire there toward the end of the race?
Pit man did.
Yeah.
Not
okay.
me.
I got you. Yeah.
I just had to take his word because we didn't have no radios
Right.
then.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you come in, and then the last 30 laps is just 4 or 5 laps at a time, and
2 or 3 laps at a time.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I had to have, the further I'd go, the
Yeah.
faster I could get.
Wow.
So that's the way the car handled. It was a good car
yeah. Yeah.
because the same people helped put it together.
And
Well, he actually didn't do it, but he was directed on how to put it together.
And that we're talking about Round Man.
Right.
Yeah. I got you.
Billy was conferring with Round Man, and then
Yeah.
he was
Yeah. Bill.
he that's what I was telling you about. He didn't hold back nothing. He tell you straight.
Right. Yeah.
And,
So you ended up finishing third that day, and that was the best finish you had at the
that's the
Snowball
best
Derby.
finish I had.
Yeah. That
Sure was.
Yeah. And that close to winning it.
That's right.
Yeah.
It just I feel like that I would have won it hands down if
Yeah.
they had run 30 laps in a row.
Right. Yeah.
Because I'd done been going from the back to the front all day.
Yeah. So getting toward the end of your career, you're working hard, and Alan's racing at the same time, and y'all trying to maintain all the stuff that you're trying to maintain and traveling.
That's right. Well, I was running a business,
Yeah, that's right.
and I'd run the business, and then I'd move next door, start working again at night.
Wow.
Late hours too.
Oh, I know. And how'd you start your garage? When did you go in business for yourself?
Well, me and my brother went in a service station out there in Pleasant Grove in about probably about 64,
Okay.
63 or 4. And we stayed there for about 15 years.
Okay.
And it was a service station, and we worked on, we did mechanic work there.
Right.
And I kept race cars there, do the same thing, work
Yep.
daytime there and at night. But we worked 7 days a week there
Okay.
because we had a fleet of trucks from Kelly Manufacturing that we kept up, 3 tractors and 6 trailers.
Wow.
And we had to wash them all every weekend.
Wow.
And they'd leave out on Sunday evening, go to Miami and down that way, unload, come back, hook them other 3 trailers up, turn around, go right back,
Wow.
selling wash tubs.
Really? Wow.
foot tubs and
Really?
stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah. So
It was a place right up the street from us there, and the trucks belonged to some guy in Texas.
okay.
He was a rental guy.
Yeah.
And he leased those trucks to Kelly Manufacturing.
Okay. Yeah.
And they furnished their own drivers and all. But that's who we was working for, was the guy in Texas.
I got you. Okay.
But we just, we had nieces, nephews,
Yeah.
their kids, and everybody working, washing them trucks and stuff.
Wow.
And I'd be gone.
Yeah.
And my brother'd leave just in time to come to the races,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
So, so Tater was with you most all your.
Oh,
all
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
He helped me. When my oldest brother was living out there, he'd come help me, and Then he moved up to Crane Hill up on the lake.
Yeah.
And then I got help from him through where he worked too for making parts.
Okay. All right. Yeah, helping you. All right. Good deal. Yeah. So, but Tater and you were in business with the gas station, with
the service station.
Now, did you sell it, or what happens with it in the end?
Well, they got to. They didn't want to. They wanted to sell gas.
Yeah. Right.
And oil.
Right.
And stuff, and they didn't like us working on those trucks and cars and doing the mechanic work. They just wanted to sell their products.
Right. Yeah.
And so
they own the property. You're kind of leasing it from them.
Well, we were leasing it from the station from Bernie Higginbotham was his name.
Okay.
I think he owned it, but he was a Shell distributor.
Yeah.
And we paid, I think it was so much a gallon on gas we sold. So we don't know if the word was coming from him or from Shell Company itself.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was just another. So we moved to Fairfield.
Okay. Yeah.
And my brother rented a service station there that was they wasn't using that part of it. And it was using a body shop in the back of it. And if I needed to work, I rented a building right across the alley there from it to keep my race cars in.
Okay.
And I didn't really do nothing for a few years there but race.
Is that right?
And if I needed to work, I'd just go there and work for my brother, and he'd pay me.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
And he got off into refactory work.
Yep.
And then if I needed to work, I could go work for him there.
Okay.
I had a job, I just wouldn't go to it.
Now he worked with Pat Sewell for quite a while, right?
Right.
Yeah.
He did, and he worked for AP Green before he went there because Pat Sewell was working for AP Green, and this other guy was working there. His name was Jones, but I can't remember his name now. But they went off and opened up a refactory place itself.
Okay.
And then my brother went to work for them several years. And then he went to Reno Refactories.
Okay.
And guy had that place, and he went to work for him, and that's where he finished up till he retired.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And so what makes you give up racing? You just finally just got wore down. And
well, I was wore out.
Yeah.
At 50 years old.
Yeah.
And I did drive a few races after that.
Right.
But nothing big.
Right.
Just,
Is that were you driving for yourself, or you drove for some other people after or then?
Back and forth. I was mostly, I could say, by myself, because every car I drove, just about it, I was working on.
Right. Yeah. We got you.
Every car I drove, I was working.
Yeah.
on.
Right. Yeah.
And I just wanted to be sure that the cars was good to go.
Right.
I couldn't stand nothing falling off of a car.
Right.
Wheel run off or exhaust fall off. Just anything can fall off because that race car is under severe duty.
That's right. No doubt about it. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good. I want to thank you for coming today, and I appreciate your time.
Well, I enjoyed it.
Well, good.
We talked about old times, your
That's
leg,
right.
and everything else.
That's correct. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's
that was a bad scene from what Alton says.
Yeah, it was. It's speaking of a motorcycle accident I had when I was 14 years old, and right near his house, and had a pretty bad compound fracture and stayed in the cast for quite a long time. So yeah, it was a ordeal for me for sure.
Yeah.
And I was always a race fan and always enjoyed the racing, and I was kind of like you. I was enamored with it at an early age and wanted to be a part. And luckily, later on in my life, I had to get a chance to have a a career at it, and got a chance that I never thought I would ever get. And it's something that if you love it, you love it. And there's
absolutely the way I worked at it. I had to spend mornings in junkyards and evenings in the shop putting them junkyard parts on for a long time before I got to. Now then, you can just buy every piece you need.
That's correct,
and that put everything sky high.
It does
everything.
Yeah, you got 2 or 3 hands that passes through, and like you said, and the prices just get
that's
out.
Exactly
out
right.
And
that's right. I hope my grandson gets to come on up and have as much fun as I had.
And he's been running at Sayre and
Jasper and Montgomery.
And what is his name?
Wesley Shuford.
Okay, well, good.
Shuford.
Yeah, and that's your daughter's son.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
And
good. She teaches school at Oak Grove High School.
Yeah,
drives a school bus, and she's also got the Teacher of the Year this year.
What an honor that is.
Kind of made me proud.
Yeah, no doubt.
Anyway, they must like her down there too to get Teacher of the Year.
You've been very fortunate. You got 2 good children.
I feel like I got the best.
Yeah, you do.
And the best wife.
Yeah, you do. Give me your wife's name again. What's her first name?
My wife?
Yeah.
Dorothy.
Yeah, that's right, Dorothy. Okay, well, good.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, we're gonna call it a day, and I know we'll be back very soon, and we're gonna hit it again and make sure we don't miss anything in your life, because we want to tell it all.
I've had so much in my life, I'll be forgetting it.
No problem. Thanks so much, Alton.
All right.